So Dark Souls 3 has added a bunch of new refinements that are really good for the game, but of course, they're also really hidden, and you shouldn't have to puzzle them out yourself like I did. Let me tell you about them. Number 1 is that you can hold down on the D-pad, and you'll be brought to the first item in your quick select bar. For most people, this will be their healing Estus flask, and I recommend you keep it that way because, man, once you discover this mechanic, you'll no longer be like, where the fuck is my Estus, and die while you're toggling for it. It's great, there's no longer a drawback to having 10 items in your quick select bar. For number 2, everyone knows that Fashion Souls is far more important than the worthless stats on your armor. For example, these gloves have far better defense, poise, and resistances, but they show my skinny hollow elbows, and that just won't do. So now, the game helps you curate the perfect fashion, all with the press of the right analog stick at the equipment screen. That's better. And at some point in your journey, you're gonna take off that helmet and be like, holy shit, I look like beef jerky. Well, don't worry. In Dark Souls 3, it's almost a good thing to go hollow, so let me explain. When you rescued a character called Yol on the Undead Settlement Bridge, you can bring him back to your shrine, and when you talk to him there, you have the option to draw out your true strength. Selecting this option lets you level up once for free, but there is a hidden catch. When you level up for free at Yol, you receive a dark sigil in the key slot of your inventory, and every time you die with a dark sigil in your inventory, you receive a point of hollowing in your stat screen, visible here. The more hollowing you get, the more you look like beef jerky, the darker your covenant symbol becomes, and the more excited Yol gets. Every few points of hollowing, just check back at Yol and he'll let you level up again, getting you another dark sigil in your inventory, giving you more points of hollowing when you die, and again until you level up 5 times at Yol and he dies of excitement. In his place, Yuria appears and the hollowing questline continues. I highly recommend that you go down this questline because, in my opinion, it's one of the best ones in the game. However, it is very tricky to do right, so check out my lore through series if you're interested in doing the questline. We're gonna go through it there. If you spent hours curating the perfect waifu, I wouldn't do that, but some people like to do it. It's weird. Anyway, don't worry, it's easy to reverse hollowing. Just buy a purging stone from Yuria and you can remove all the hollowing points. And furthermore, if you give a Firekeeper soul to the Firekeeper, then she'll heal the dark sigils in your inventory so you won't hollow again. Good looks don't come cheap though, so remember that. Number 4 is that it's now way easier to play with your mates. Just set a password shared between you both, and all of a sudden, you will be able to be summoned regardless of your soul level. To balance this, the game will scale down the Phantom's strength to match the host's. Also, you can't drop a weapon for your friend that exceeds his or her maximum upgraded weapon. How cool is this summoning system though? For so long we've been leveling up characters alongside our friends, and that gets so tricky and complicated. This simplifies things so much. But I'll tell you what I like more than friends: invading people. Once you get the Red Eye Orb from Ringfinder Leonard, you can use it to invade indefinitely. I'll explain his questline in another video. But did you know that the rewards you get for killing a host now depend on which covenant you're in? For example, if I invade with the Red Eye Orb and a Sunbro medal equipped, then I'll get Sunlight medals for killing. If you go in as a Red Phantom Mound Maker, I'll get a Vertebra Shackle for killing, and so on. If I invade as anything else, I think though, I get a Pale Tongue, which is a reward for the Fingers of Rosaria Covenant, which is associated with the Red Eye Orb. So if you want to farm those 3 Covenant rewards, then PvP with a friend or invade others. It's really good for switching it up. Additionally, the color of your Red Phantom now changes depending on your equipped Covenant as well. You can see here I'm this sexy golden Red Phantom because I'm a Sunbro invader. I love the way it looks. So yeah, try some jolly murdering for once. Another related thing is to do with invasion requirements. You can only invade people who match or are below your maximum upgraded weapon level, in addition to the soul level system also being in place. A user named Prinex on Reddit actually did a great write-up on invasion requirements, and you should go and check it out, it's really interesting. I'll put it in the description below. Number 6. One thing that I discovered from watching PvP streamers was that you can now parry people even if they attack you from behind. Apparently, a shield parry now affects phantoms in a 360 radius around you, but is this a bug or a feature? Time will tell. For number 7, I've written down that you can perform visceral attacks on a ton of enemies, some of whom don't even look staggerable. The head is what you often want to aim for on many enemy creatures, but the main thing I want to talk about is that if you hit an enemy regularly during this time, just with a light attack for example, you'll now hear a different sound which indicates that you're dealing more damage during their vulnerable state. You also hear this sound on counter hits and all the other vulnerable times. It's a nice touch. Number 8. When you run and press R2 now, you do a jumping attack. These can also be initiated by pressing forward and R2 of course. What's also new is that you can do a rolling attack animation immediately after a jumping attack. I found for most weapons this is really good for crystal lizards because jumping attacks often fling them onto their back and rolling attacks are often vertical or pokes. Number 9. When you do a jump by pressing L3 when you're running, you no longer have to do the mandatory roll at the end of it. If you stop pressing forward on the left analog stick as soon as you initiate the jump, then your character will come to a standstill, like this. This is particularly good for tricky jumping puzzles like this one, but there really aren't many uses for this right now at all, which is a shame. I never thought that Dark Souls needed jumping puzzles because the jumping mechanic has always been trash, but the fact that this exists, that you don't have to roll, is almost like an Easter egg. It would be interesting if they put a puzzle where you have to stop the jump, you can't do the roll in order to get the reward. I think that would be neat. Alright, number 10. Using weapon arts with no focus still works for a lot of weapons, and while their effectiveness is often reduced, some weapons are worth using simply for their weapon art. For example, the Sunlight Straightsword has a buff that you can apply even with a tiny bit of focus, and daggers have a quick step that functions with no focus at all. This is particularly handy when you're rolling through the swamp. Just equip a dagger and fly through the swamp with the weapon art instead. Look at how much faster this is. It brought my swamp experience up to a almost bearable. It's pretty good. The next 5 secrets are little quickfire secrets. First, you can do a charge attack by holding R2, like in Bloodborne. You can also throw some knives while running, and some spells, like Farron Dart, while running as well. You get a heavy roll at above 70% equip burden, so it's very beneficial to stay below 70%. Power stance dual wielding no longer exists in Dark Souls 3, which is sad because I think that was one of the best things that Dark Souls 2 brought to the table. You can now two-hand dual wieldable weapons instead. And for number 15, I want you to go and check out this video. It's by a streamer named Scott Jund, who did an awesome little write-up on how defense works in Dark Souls 3. My favorite discovery in that video was that having an empty armor slot is something you just never want to do, and that even wearing rags in that armor slot can drastically increase your defense. So subscribe if you want to. This channel is all about Dark Souls, so we got stories and tips and guides, and if you have any other tips, throw them in the comments section. It's really fun to be able to unpack the game with you guys, and I'm sure there's some stuff I've missed, and I hope there is, because I don't want this to end. Also, if you have another browser tab free, open up RB Frosty's Twitch stream and throw him a follow, because he helped a ton with all the multiplayer testing, and he is another great streamer in the community that you should support. Thanks for watching and supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one for more Dark Souls 3.